Hi, today I want to talk to you about uh, the places one wish to explore, one wish to settle. I prepared the sites with information uh, sorted by most important factors uh, in choosing the place to live. So it is like general travel information. I want to present you with bunch of statistics, bunch of data uh, that may be helpful for your choices, personal choices. So I think uh, the most important factors that people consider when moving out are like freedom factors, like freedoms in the region. There are lots of indicates that are listed in this Wikipedia article, but we are interested in visualization here. So, like Western countries are perceived to be more pro freedom, but I heard also the opinion that it is kind of biased, biased, biased because uh, there is soft power element to it. So these countries are more like rich countries are more likely to have political marketing campaigns that promotes these global regions, but it stands for something, yes. So like Western countries are more have more press freedom, more economic freedom, and so on. That's kind of obvious, but here we see some changes. Okay, and yeah. So the next thing is the index prepared by economists called Where to be Born Index. It is famous index to measure what prospects are for people who are like the name suggests were born in a given country. So again, we have Western countries are higher on the index and more advanced economies. So like Northern Europe are leading the way, and Canada is pretty high on the list. So it is kind of interesting. Here, like always, you have a link. You can explore it by yourself. So the next thing is Human Development Index. It is again index developed by economists and is pretty famous. It measures things like economic prospects, economic base, and social aspects of life. Again, nothing new. Western Western economies are seeing growth and are stably up up in the ranking. So Africa turns out to be not so well, but it's keep improving. You see, even Sahara Africa improves. Uh, the interesting statistic I think is where people on average uh, ma- marry. So we can open this graph. So like you see in Western Europe, the average age of marriage can be like 20 years old, more or less. But in like countries like Portugal or Spain, the average age at first marriage is 33 years old. So it is crazy, like the difference. We can see like there is cultural variance to it. It's not like West East dichotomy, but it is more nuanced. So if it is important to you, we should consider it. So the next thing by Internations is famous ranking for expats. City ranking. It is published every year. It is very interesting. There's huge of research in it. We can read why places are those places. So some developing countries are mentioned, uh, like Latino countries, lots of Latino countries, and countries. Those countries are welcoming immigrants and are pro socially, accepting the immigrants and are like tolerant. Uh, this ranking lists only like 50 countries, I think, or more or less something like that. So not, I mean cities. So it is not comprehensive enough, but it gives you some kind of insight. We have Malaga, some Latin countries, cities. Sorry, some in Middle East, Abu Dhabi. We have Mexico City, Kuala Lumpur, Bangkok. Okay, so the thing everyone have on mind when talking about living abroad is like tax environment. So I will come to this point later because I have other statistics, but uh, but there is everything is mentioned in Wikipedia. It is simplistic, of course, simplifying, of course, but you can sort the Wikipedia list and see that some European countries have highest tax rates because they don't have resources, like Russia have natural resources and they need to tax people and to provide services, and some countries have very low tax rates, like some islands on the Caribbean Sea. Okay, there is not so much visualization here, but we'll come back to this later. So the next great site I want to show you is Global Slavery Index. So it is important to know if you live in a country where there is lots of slavery, because it impacts the human development perception, and it just gives you insight in what culture do you live in. Mm, so this index is, I think, United Nations or something like that. It it is visual clue in like government action and prevalence. Here you go, like in European countries, developed European countries, you don't have much of slavery, but and forced labor. Uh, this graphic you can check it. It is pretty nice. You can go to this site. So, and the 50 million people in Asia and Pacific are affected by slavery. There you have a map, but it seems to not work. Maybe we can refresh this page. nearly 1 in every 150 people are affected by slavery. So this chart over here presents like government action against slavery and prevalence of it. We can see that these black countries are more 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 affected, and these lots of others are, are are doing pretty fine. Okay, so you can check this data. It is very important. So the next thing that gives pretty huge huge insights are the migration of visual of the migration of rich people. So this is this site called Visual Capitalist uh, is very popular site for visualization. I give them credit. So lots of like in the West perceived totalitarian countries are losing rich people. They emigrate to the Western countries and Europe. Uh, even though there are higher taxes in these countries, in some of these countries, but we can see that huge amounts of people from those countries are fleeing. Why? I think there's complex answer to it. I think like they are moving because they read some freedom statistics, freedom culture. This some they have some cultural preferences, but they want to live with higher standards of living, and yes, it's interesting why, but uh, yes. So next thing we have where there is a crime. So this Numbeo site gives you map and gives you lots of cities, not countries but cities, and we can see on this map like Latin America is doing very poorly on crime spectrum. Europe is relatively safe. America is kind of safe. Uh, uh, East Asian countries are pretty safe. So we can sort this out. Uh, so nothing extremely new to learn, but if you want to live in a particular city, you need to be aware of this. So the next thing is cost of living. Cost of living is really interesting data on this same site. There are mentioned cities here, so like we know Switzerland is pretty expensive. Here it is United States, but they earn very much, so uh, it is when you click on this site. Oh, sorry. So when you when you select, for example, Zurich, when you enter the city, you can see like people reports the prices of everything, of potatoes, of bananas, of apples, of clothes, of rent per month. It is very holistic and comprehensive. You can compare two cities, for example, London. So you can see that cost of living in Zurich is 50% higher in London. It is very useful site. There are lots of sites like this, but it is very comprehensive, so I recommend it. So again, we have some statistic to show you. For example, there is Old World in Data. They are another visualization sites and data analysis sites. There you have life satisfaction statistics. So I think again some developed countries are doing pretty good. Some cross time statistics. I give you link. Oh, here we have the uh, the median, the dominant score by countries. So we see some correlation here. Okay, I won't show you everything, but it is pretty insightful. You can check it on this site and many other statistics as well. Stats. The next thing, we have this site that was taken over by World Health Organization some time ago. It is the full information about corporal punishment of like children and in schools and so on. So we can see that in today there are 66 countries that prohibit punishment of children in school, but it was like uh, 40 years ago it was like one country. So it changes pretty exponentially. You can see in what year country uh, proclaimed the new law. Yes, so you need to know if your country is on that list. Then we see this. The next thing is Nomad Capitalist site. It is site that gives you information uh, about your passport index, your alternative place to for tax purposes and for like uh, plan B, and it ranks in this ranking the passports or on the aspects of travel, taxation, dual citizenship, benefits, perception, and freedom. You can see that European countries are doing the best. Yes, lots of European countries. So we can see Luxembourg and Sweden and Ireland are best overall. It changes year to year, but it is we can see methodology here and we know why. So this is kind of old index, but it goes every year. So the standard statistics we can see to have some insight is like IQ statistics. So we see some difference here. Some East Asian countries are leading the way. So next thing we have mental illness prevalence on this Wikipedia site. Okay, I click something. Okay, I click the right thing. We can see that on the Latin America and North America they have no, it is like disability prevalence or something. Wait a second. I think yes. So we have on the west we have most mental illness in general in the west. It is pretty common to have mental illness. In Africa not so much. Maybe they don't measure it properly. I don't know. So the next based simple statistic is GDP per capita is not ideal metric, but West is leading the way, Africa is lagging behind. Okay, so now we have something interesting. This site, I highly recommend this Wikipedia page. It gives you many quality of life survey indexes, and they mention cities. So like you can see that Swiss cities, European cities are overall having most benefits, most the highest in this ranking. So every time Switzerland appears and some United States countries. Okay, so it is really great site. Uh, in relation to what we saw before a moment ago, we have visual capitalist site again with uh, life with cities around the world. We can see Western countries are doing just fine. Nothing new here, but great site. There is a site called World Happiness Index, report. And we won't read it all, but like you know, Western countries are happier. On average, you can go here and check this out yourself. But nothing new here, really. So maybe we want. Okay. Let's see it. Let's see it. Uh, 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 uh. Maybe let's see summary. Okay, so we need to download the full report, and you know what, I think, okay, let's see. Okay, so life evaluation. So northern European countries are doing without the sun routine, without the vitamin D, they doing pretty fine, topping the index. We see some curious examples like Costa Rica or like Slovenia. So they they're, they're the best. And some countries that don't want that they're lagging behind are like war zones and so on, and like India, the average is not awesome here. And next we have population pyramid. This site summary all of the information about. It lists the situation of given country. You can go here and like type China, and you see China have bad demography, and they will shrink to 700 million by this year. So you want, if you I heard this opinion that it is better to live in countries that have shrinking population because people like value more children or something, but there are obviously lots of minuses living in a shrinking country. Economy is one thing. I think older people are more like cranky, and maybe they don't. Maybe old people are not so dynamic and so on. And it can be, of course, the other way around. I don't know. I just heard this weird thought. We have visual capitalist side, again population growth. We can see here that African countries in the next 100 years will dominate the demography of the world and East Asian countries. The next, so let's go maybe to the next thing, the Schengen area. So this is a European Union uh, agreement of movement, of free movement, free mobility. If you have countries if you want to live in a country in Schengen, you will be able to travel all the Europe without like additional permits. You can have only your only your ID card and travel without restrictions. So I think Romania and Bulgaria joined the Schengen area, but I'm not sure. Great Britain left the European Union, so they don't have this benefit. Border controls, yes, less border controls. 29 countries. So don't forget it if you want to live in Europe. We are like in the half. We are in the middle of what we want to show you. So next side, visual capitalist side, where in the world you have the best work-life balance. So of course Europe is socialist project, and we have best life condition here. You can see Northern Europe, highest taxes but highest standard of living, but highest taxes. So just we see this on the map, and maybe we can speed up because lots of things we need to talk about. We need to, if we are nomads or migrants, we want to live in a country where there is lingua franca. We want to communicate. If we are not proficient in that language, we see that low number of people in Africa and some developing countries speak English, of course, except some countries like colonial countries and United States and English speaking countries by natively. Okay, so Netherlands, they have, I think, officially made their second official language English. Singapore is duolingual, they speak Chinese and English, and European countries are doing pretty good. So we import, this map is telling it all. We see population, you can check more of it on this site. So the Gini index is measure of income inequality, of wealth redistribution difference, and we can see that South Africa is among countries that have highest inequality. Some countries like Brazil are opposite of what is in Europe. In Europe, especially in post-communist countries, we see the, I think, capitalist system didn't make so much income inequality like in United States. There is higher income redistribution in Europe, especially like in France or something. The Russia is doing worse. It is important because inequality is have negative consequences for like coexistence, for like your stratification, your mobility across social status strata, and okay, we talk about taxes on Wikipedia, so I want to go to this cute site. You can copy this link. It is it it lists like personality traits of different countries. This is really interesting. Maybe ChatGPT could say something equally interesting, but you can see that some countries are more extroverted. Like we see some pretty random countries. Some are more introverted, like Poland, Portugal. Some are more intuitive, some observant more. Thinking, feeling, judging, prospecting, assertive, turbulent. So it is really interesting. This gradient of colors, contrast of colors, is not done very well, I think, but it is interesting article. I recommend it. So the next thing is where Transparency International is like leading institute of cultural analysis of like best practices in government. So this is very biased index, but it's because it excludes lots of factors, and this is relative because propaganda and so on. So, but we can see that Western countries are more like transparent and accountable more than some countries in developing countries. So nothing new here, but it is important. So next thing is passport index. There are lots of passport index, but this is most famous one. You can check what power have your passport. For example, United Arab Emirates have access to visa free on 154 countries. Only visa required are 19 countries. So so African countries have problem here, I think, and some Middle East countries. Yes, so the worst one is Syria in 24. So if you are curious where you can go, you can check this site. The next thing about like abuse analytics is site called is a document called A Familiar Face by United Nations. You can see here bunch of statistics regarding uh, child welfare, and it is like astonishing that 1 of 14 children experience violent discipline, and you can see that in like 3 in 4 children are regularly subject to violent discipline by their caregivers. Of course, it is not a dichotomy west south. In lots of rich countries, children are affected, but they focus on like developing countries, and in poorest quintile are more likely to experience various discipline. No, this is, I think, some correlation here, or not. In richest quantile are more likely to experience any violent discipline. So I don't know if there is a correlation. So, but I think yes, this is controversial issue. I don't have opinion. but it is very important to know that in much of the world population there is a crisis in millions. If your country is leading this index, you should be worried. You should see this will have consequences in the future of your country. So next thing I want to show you the old site. It is not updated. It is 2018, but it is like great visualization in what countries you have low taxes. So we have some tax haven. We can choose here, but uh, we can specify if we want to corporate income tax include this, or we want to have personal income tax lower. So in order to do it, we need to like click here, or like, oh yes, unchecked everything except this. So we have like Bahamas or Costa Rica or Cayman Islands. These small countries, or Bulgaria, have like flat rates or low rates. They are pretty attractive for personal tax purposes. This is pretty cool to see it. And yes, sad this site is not updated, but it is lots. You can learn lots from it. So tax attractiveness index, taxindex.org. Okay, the next thing, connecting to this earlier information about where the children have you know, violent punishments. We have this slavery. Slavery is on decline. Fortunately, lots of the countries, but in some countries, like in North Korea or some countries, there is still problem with it. So it is very positive information right here. Not as much information in this article, but like you can just have an idea of the phenomena. I wanted to show you this visual capitalist article because uh, it visualize it shows visualization of aspects of living in a big or small city. So we can see that in like smaller cities we have higher quality of life, I think. This is more nuanced or something, but like Tokyo is very livable city, but it is huge. So you can see that there is it is nuanced, but there are some cities like Tokyo where you can have large city and keep the quality of life. So there's cute site called Nomad List. It ranks the cities for nomads based on the internet access and speed. But I think this is paid site. You need to have to buy access to this info. But yes, like Bangkok have 100 nearly 100 megabytes per second, and it is pretty cheap to live in, like Thailand, Mexico, Greece, Spain. You can play around it. but let's carry on with our search. So I can show you this, but this is only like a curiosity that some countries are more promiscuous than others. If you're looking for your long-term relationship, you can like see that uh, you can like see that uh, in like some countries like Poland or Israel there is conservative culture, and not so much in like England. There you have a map, and you can see that Brazil and Germany and Switzerland are most promiscuous countries, and this and China is not so, and India. So good for them. We see the Gini index, happiness index, IQ. We saw IQ. Yes, yes, we saw. Uh, so the last one of the last ones is this article on visual capitalist. It compares. It is so interesting, but just wanted to show you there are lots of like sites on visual capitalists that are that make comprehensive analysis. So let's fastly move forward with it. So population, population of older people, urban population, rural population, land area, fuel export, CO2 emissions, and so on as we go. So it is interesting. The next thing is obesity. It is not so important, but if you want to have healthy culture, you don't want to live in the United States, and maybe in Europe or in China or India. They have great metabolism, I think, in China and India. And the next thing is working hours in OECD countries. This is organization allying the most developed countries, lots of them, and you can see that there are workaholics in Mexico and in Poland, but they don't work as much in Germany, and they don't work in Europe as much. Yes, this is curiosity that the working hours are in decline. I mean, they shrinking because people are more and more productive, and they want more and more free time in developed countries, in some of developed countries. So the next thing is suicide rate. It is important important statistics. We can see that Russia has a suicide problem rate is huge for men, especially. In United States is pretty high. I don't know about African countries, but maybe they don't measure it properly. Okay, so the next thing, it is important to consider education. This top university site is like most popular ranking for universities, but we can see that by region there are some universities that are best in some regions, and some are best globally, but some are best in the region. So if you like in for example, Netherlands, there are lots of universities and English-speaking universities important if you are internationalist. So the next thing we have homeschooling statistics. It is creation of the English culture, but there are lots of homeschooling in the Western Latin America countries like Chile. In Europe, it is popular in England and Ireland, but not. It is growing. It has growing momentum in other European countries, like it is legal in Portugal, but not so much popular. There it is legal in India, South Africa, and in Oceania. It is, but it is like banned in German. I don't know why. It is important if you want to plan your family in the future. Uh, the next important thing is like share of single parenting. It is it is changing year by year, so the statistics is not giving the full view, but in this old statistic from 2018 we can see that Western countries have problem with broken families, and we can see that I don't know if we can trust Chinese government statistics, but in China it seems that they don't have so much problem with single parenting. In Poland, this was the conservative culture a while ago, so maybe it has some influence, but I'm not sure. So lots of countries have different impacts by this phenomena. So the last thing I want to show you is trust in others. In Europe, it is trust is social category of like believing that others are good, and we can see that France is not uh, like biggest on this metric, and in Denmark we have lots of trusting people. It is not not okay. So we have other countries. So we have Middle East and China and North America are pretty, and Australia are pretty trustful, and North Europe. So you can find great statistics on Reddit, but uh, their quality is questionable. I recommend you this site I show you, the Our World in Data, Visual Capitalist. Those are based sites, and you can check, you can share in the comments the other great sites we can explore, and yes, those sites come to my mind when I think about countries where I would like to live, and it is great that internet give you this free access to information to know really the geography of social geography, cultural geography of the world's regions, and I think countries around the world will expand and uplift their limitation, their defects, and we will live in a better world. So I think it is pretty insightful, and thank you for watching to my video, and take care, and thank you for watching again.